All right, welcome to what I deem as one of the most important videos in our video series here. And the reason for that is because we're going to talk about getting paid. That's right, making money. You see, if you're doing this and you're not making money, you're wasting your time. You're like a hamster in a hamster wheel just spinning your wheels, okay? So it's very important that you understand the process of getting paid. And even if you look at my quick start overview, one of the things I talk about is making sure that you've gotten step one, getting your payment processing set up. The reason for that is because if you don't understand how you're going to take payment, then you're not able to explain it clearly to your clients, and so therefore they don't really care how they're going to pay you. Meaning if you leave it up to them, then they're going to control the deal. And so in the amount of time I've been doing this and in the amount of time I've been doing business online, or just business period, it's always been imperative to me to make sure that I know how I'm getting paid. Because if I'm doing work and I'm not getting paid, there we go. It's a waste of time. And I've been through the hassles of that with this business. I've had a lot of money go unpaid after doing a lot of work for a lot of clients, and learned how to get paid up front and learned how to make money the right way. Now, a lot of these courses have offered similar types of, whether it's pay per lead model or paid on a percentage of job model and things like that, and that's all fine. And I've done a lot of the different types of models. However, what I learned was that if I left it up to the customer, they would never actually pay me. So we want to have control of some sort up front right away, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, there's two ways that I'm going to talk about getting paid. There's probably 15,000 other ways of getting paid, but the two primary ways I've gotten paid in my business are through PayPal and what's called Braintree. Now, Braintree is a credit card processing company who recently was acquired by PayPal, so I'm sure you'll start to see integrations of the two. But I really like Braintree, and PayPal works in certain cases, especially if you do need cash that day for doing your advertising or whatever it is that you're doing. So, whether you're accustomed to this or you've done it before, if you're a newbie, I don't know. Everybody's different. Everybody's in a different place. But I want to just show you how I create invoices in PayPal and talk about what I do when I do invoicing. So, when I first got started, I was using actually ACT, which is analytic call tracking, which I still use, and they have a billing option. So if you get their enterprise version, and this was not clear to me, but basically if you get their enterprise version and you do a pay per lead model, it will actually send invoices for you on a weekly basis or bi-weekly or monthly basis to your client so they can pay you directly. Now, if you're working in a different type of way, meaning maybe you want people to pay you up front, then you're going to want to use an invoice system such as FreshBooks or PayPal or even using credit cards to actually get that. So what I would do here is I would actually go, if you're not familiar with the PayPal invoicing, if you've got a PayPal business account, you can go here to request money and then create invoice. Again, you have to have a PayPal business account. Now, let me reiterate the fact that you don't actually have to have a limited liability company or even a state licensed sole proprietorship. From what I remember, I actually set this business account up before I'd even incorporated my LLC. So you should be able to, if you've got a personal account, go ahead and upgrade, get it situated with your bank account, and make sure that you've got a legitimate PayPal business account. That way you can do more of the business stuff. All right. So what we want to do is obviously get the person's email address, put it in there so we can set it up. I always leave all this kind of the same. If your invoice number is 001, change it to something like 1832 or something. It's just kind of weird if you send out an invoice and it has like number 1. Like, makes you look like you've never been in business before, and you don't really want that. So make sure you've got their email address there. And then for your item name, it depends on what you're actually selling, but it's very simple. If you're selling leads for lawyer or contractor, whatever it is that we're going to be doing, we'll say today's date, and then what happens is, and I'm going to talk about this in more in the sales part, but if you want to have people do a pay per lead system, you really want either their credit card up front and billing a certain amount, or you want them to prepay for a certain amount, so maybe $100 or $75, and you'd be amazed at how many people will actually do that up front. So as you can see, I changed the quantity to 3, and if depending upon what you're charging per lead, I put $25 per lead, no tax, $75. And in your note to recipient, I always like to put exactly what it is I'm doing. Now, I don't mention Craigslist, don't mention anything of the type of advertising you're doing. Just say local advertising for contractor, at $25 per lead or something of that nature. And you can also put in the terms and conditions. That way, it's clear as day in there what you're actually doing, and you've got that part of it. So that's pretty much it as far as setting an invoice. Again, I know some of you've already done that, and it's not a big deal to you, but for those of you who have not, I know there's plenty of newbies that are just getting started and have never actually set up an invoice to send through PayPal, so I just wanted to show you that. Now, the second way I do this, and this is more common for me, is I use Braintree. Now, Braintree is a very awesome but simple credit card processing solution where you don't have to pay any monthly fees. Right now, that's the way it is. It's very awesome. It's 2.9% plus, 15 cents per transaction. So it's very similar in the processing fees to what PayPal is. However, with Braintree, you can take a credit card over the phone and there's no fee. With PayPal, you have to set up what's called their PayPal Pro system, and it's like $30 a month just to be able to take credit cards, and then it's an additional $30 a month if you want to do subscriptions. With Braintree, it's all inclusive, so it's awesome. Okay, so what I do is I actually will be filling out a form when I'm creating the sale, and this is the form I fill out. And I'll show you this more again in the sales part, but I just wanted to get more specific. So after I filled out the form, then I'll go here and I'll reiterate their name, their first name, last name, company, because I'm setting up a new customer, which is, you can see on the transaction here, I'm putting them in our vault. So this is going to save all of their data, including their credit card number. So let's say, for example, you've got somebody who is willing to do pay-per-lead, but for whatever reason, you just couldn't sell them on X amount of dollars up front. You can use this as a way to get their credit card on file so that you can go back when their invoice is up, or meaning after the first week, and say they've got 3 leads, and you can go ahead and charge their credit card. So you basically fill out this information with payment method details, cardholder name, credit card. I mean, it's very simple information. Billing addresses, I haven't had an issue with not getting billing addresses. You may want to get that. It's completely up to you. But here's the idea that you really need to understand, and that is when you're taking these credit cards, especially if you're working with contractors, many of these guys, and especially if you're getting them off Craigslist, are using what's called prepaid debit cards. You need to ask them, is this a prepaid debit card? If they're saying yes, then politely say, I will not process this unless we can at least cover 3 leads up front. At least $75 or whatever it is you're charging per lead up front. And the reason why I do that is because those are the guys that will screw you. And again, this is not to judge any particular contractors or any business owners really out there, but a lot of them do not put money on those cards, or they lose the cards and they get new cards, or they just use it one time, or they just had it in their wallet and they had like $5 left, and they're like, I'll just give them this card. I remember I had a guy that did that one time where he had other credit cards, but he gave me that one because he didn't trust me. And that trust had to do with my sales process not being refined yet. But as I got better at it, really now I don't do anything unless I get a certain amount of money up front, whether it's $75 or $50, because I want to make sure that they are legitimate. Because I've even had guys that, I build them after the week and I process their card 1-2 times, and then all of a sudden they're gone. But at least if you're getting that money up front, and now you've come to the end of the week and you go to build them again, and there's no money. Now it's different. Now you can stop sending them leads, and you're not losing money in the process. So it's very simple to set up. Once you've set them up, they're in your system. As long as you're saving it in the system, which basically that's what setting up a new customer is. It's putting them in the vault. So their credit card information is stored. It's nice, smooth, easy, not very challenging to do. I've had outsourcers do this for me. Be careful if you do outsource this, because credit card numbers and credit cards period are a very highly regulated part of the industry, and that is because you don't want to lose that data, or you don't want that data floating around. Oops. So I'm logging. Anyways, so essentially just be careful when you're doing that. Another great thing is when you're, let me get back in. Okay. Another great thing is you can actually set up subscriptions with this. And so, like, for example, I've got some of my clients on a monthly subscription. So I basically just go in there. You can create, 197, 397, 697, 997. Depends on what you're actually qualified for. I think when you first get started with Braintree, I think they'll allow you to process up to $500 per card per day or something like that. So it's not a whole lot you can do. Usually when you're getting started, unless you're able to prove out certain things about your business. Now, with Braintree to get set up, it took me about 24 hours. I had to have a website, and they had to be able to see kind of how I sell stuff. Now, they want pricing on there, but I was able to kind of get away with it by putting on there something about, average lead prices are $25 to $50 or something like that, and they were cool with it. So, but if you have any questions, they're really good support. They can really help you out. Again, they're moving in with PayPal, so I'm not sure exactly how they're going to change, but right now they're a jam-up company to do business with. So that's it, guys, on the getting paid part, the mechanics or the nuts and bolts of it. I know there a lot of people usually have confusion or questions about how to actually do this, and it's really not that hard as long as you've got this information. When it comes down to whether or not they've got some sort of receipt or invoice or things like that, there's two ways of doing it. Obviously, if you fill out this information, you can also send this invoice as well. Or if you have FreshBooks, it can do it just as well. FreshBooks will actually be able to integrate with Braintree. So if you want to send it to them and allow them to pay it, I do not recommend doing that unless you're dealing with more white-collar type businesses. The reason is because most contractors are not accustomed to paying invoices online. They will take forever. Okay, you will never get paid, or they will make excuses as to why I just don't have time. I'm out on a job. I couldn't remember. Even you can give them every inch. You can text it to them. You can do whatever, and they still won't pay it. Versus if you just have their credit card on file, it's much simpler, much easier to do. And again, I'll talk more about it in the sales as far as having money up front. Now, my form is actually set up so that when I fill this form out and click submit, then what happens is the my notification is set up so that they will get an email that has all of their details, and it has exactly what they've agreed to and how much it was for. And I will show you that on another video, but that's how I do it in my system to keep it simplified and smooth. All right, guys, so that's how to get paid. Thanks. All right, welcome back to Simple Local Leads, and in this video what we're going to cover is the website. Now, some of you may think, hey, I don't want a website, I just want to roll. Others of you are probably thinking like I was, I'd like some credibility, so I need a website. So what I decided to do is just make a quick video just showing you my website so that you can see that it adds an ounce of credibility. It does help to have it, and I would recommend it. It's very simple in the way we're setting this up. All I did was grab a simple Woo Themes, I think it's the Optimize WordPress theme, and built it on WordPress. But I just want to cover some of the essentials that you should have on there. Obviously, you want call to action like get phone leads today or something of that nature. When you click on this, you can see that what it does is it actually takes them to my lead capture form. This is not an autoresponder form. Remember, we're dealing with offline clients, so those of you that are crossing over from traditional affiliate or CPA offers and things of that nature, not that we don't want to do that. I just have chosen not to do that for now. I've chosen to act more like a digital inbound company where I'm asking for people for their name, email, phone, website, what kind of marketing they're currently doing. And the reason for that is so that I can call people on that. And I do get occasional leads from this as well, just from having it out and about in the world. I've not done any SEO or anything like that, but again, when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, it's really good to be able to say, yeah, I've got a website. It's funny because most contractors kind of equate your website with total credibility. So like they think, hey, if this guy's taken some time to build a website, he must be legit. Now, one of the questions you will get is, are you in the Better Business Bureau? And we're going to say, obviously you have to be in business for, I believe it's 12 months before you can be in the BBB. However, if that's something you're already in the Better Business Bureau for, maybe your internet marketing company or your services, something like that, good to go. But otherwise, occasionally, we'll get that question. Most of the time, people want to know our website. And again, as we talked about in the, and you'll see in some of the other videos, you'll see about where we talk about having a domain name so that you can send emails from that domain name. So, for example, if we want to send out an email that's marketing our service, like maybe we've talked to a potential client and he wants us to send information, we want to send it from a legitimate domain.com, domain name. That way we're not using Gmail or Yahoo and looking unprofessional. That's just my opinion of it. It has helped me, it's worked for me, but it's up to you how you want to do it. The way I structured it was it was just keeping it very simple. I mean, I think I built this website in like 3 hours or 2 hours or something like that. Now I've done tons of websites, so I'm a little bit different. Not everybody is, as quick at building websites, but I wanted to keep it very simple. Call to action: get local contractor leads, get phone leads. Are you sick of waiting, tired of chasing, using and competing with 10 other contractors? That's important because one of the ways I differentiate myself from Home Advisor or any other types of contractor lead networks is that we're selling them exclusive leads, and we're not sending their phone calls to 15 other people, or doing email leads or text leads and everybody's getting them. Okay, and that's very important for me in the way I distinguish my service. On here, I've used some pictures of different types, and these are all like stock photos. HVAC, electrician, painter, roofer, and plumber, I think. So those are kind of like the standard guys if you're doing the contractor niche. Exclusive phone leads, only pay for real leads. And then testimonials. I got one testimonial here. It might be good to have several, but it's always good to have that on there so that when people go to your website, they can see one. Right away, try to get it from your first client, or maybe a previous client you've worked with in another field, and just kind of get them to give you a kind of a character testimony. You don't necessarily have to put the results of this particular business. In this case, I was able to. Was one of the first guys I got signed up, and his very first phone call he turned into a $350 job, so he was extremely satisfied right from the get-go. Another thing I have on here is terms of service and privacy policy. There's a free plugin. Forgot the name of it, but if you type in terms of service or privacy policy in WordPress, you'll find it's a free plugin you can just utilize for that, and it'll basically fill in all those information for you. Refund policy is also important. Now, as we talked about in getting paid, one of the things, if you're going to go the Braintree route, if you're going to get a credit card, any type of merchant processing, generally speaking, they're going to want to know what your website is, because if you're going to be taking credit cards over the phone, they want to know that you have a legitimate business. And so the same thing. Again, it's amazing, by just throwing up a really quick and easy website, it automatically gives you credibility. So I have my refund policy, which is really a generic refund policy, and then or contact us right there. And then as far as marketing is concerned, I've got HVAC leads, handyman, painting, plumbing, electrician, roofing. I mean, you can put all of them if you want. Again, I just needed to get this up for credibility's sake, and as well as for Braintree when I first got started. So I wanted to have something quick. I'm the type of person that's I'd rather not take 10 days to build it. I'd rather just do it in a day and get it done. So with each of these pages, I've pretty much used the same lingo on every page, except I'm focusing it on HVAC or handyman. And really, it's just the same type of ad I use to attract clients. Tired of chasing leads around, tired of dealing with competition where if you're buying leads and they're sending them out, that kind of thing. We get leads for you. Real simple stuff. And then the about page, just real simple about, and contact us, and that's it. So that's really it. I mean, your website does not have to be over the top and crazy type of stuff. It really just needs to be just done so that it looks decent. I mean, this is really an ugly website in my opinion, but it works, does the trick. You got this cheesy looking stock photo of a HVAC guy or whatever, thumbs up, hey, this is a good service, you should use it, kind of thing. So if you bought the OTO, this is the website you're getting in the OTO. So pretty much once you actually use the duplicator and set it up, you're good to go. You've got this whole site live. You'll just have to change the name to your your business name and things like that. So that is it. That is getting a website set up. If you're not familiar with WordPress in terms of setting up websites on WordPress, there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube. There's a ton of free content. There's a lot of free PLR that you can probably find on how to set up a website. Look, WordPress is one of the easiest things in the world if you're a newbie at it. Maybe go to Odesk or somewhere like that. I've gotten websites built for like 20 to 50 bucks. You can find WordPress developers for $3 an hour that can pretty much make an exact replica. So It's up to you as to how you want to do it. But that's what I recommend. So we'll see you in the next video. Alright, welcome back to Simple Local Leads, and in this video we're going to talk about how to get your clients. Okay, now what we're not talking about in this video is sales, we're talking about the marketing side of things. So I split it up into two different distinct videos. On this video, what we're going to focus on specifically is getting leads, and in the other video we'll talk about actually once you're talking to the person. Now, my process might be completely different from what you do. My process works for me. It has worked for me, and I continue to use it as of right now even. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you several different ways you can do this, because everybody's different and the type of clients they want to work with and how they want to work with them. I found a way that was simple for me because it was repeatable and it was scalable. You might find a completely different way, or you might enjoy doing things differently. So I'm going to just kind of show you a couple of the main sources of where you can get leads from. Now, when I talk about this, what I'm really saying is that you have to focus on sort of a criteria. Okay, if you're going to work with contractors, you want to work with people that are already advertising or that are already actively in business, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a lot of people who are just starting out or guys that are looking for beer money. Now listen, when I'm in my sales message, you'll hear me talk about that. When I'm on the phone with a client, a lot of times I will make that statement. Hey, look, my marketing is not for everybody. I don't work with guys that are just looking for some beer money. I work with true professionals who are in business to make money. And so I take that approach also in my marketing. Now, I may not always attract the right guys with my advertising that I do, but this is a way to clean that up if you want to make some changes to it. For me in particular, what I do, the way I screen it out, it works for me. But I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. So obviously the Yellow Pages is one of those ways, because if you type in roofer, and I'm in Atlanta, so we'll just say Atlanta, GA, obviously you're going to find a ton of guys on here. Now, there's a couple of methods that I've heard different guys using for some of these systems, so I'll kind of lay out a couple of them. I know what's worked for us is, but basically what they do is a lot of them will use like Hot Prospect Lead Finder or something like that. It's like this, basically like this automated software where you basically scrape a bunch of phone numbers from like the Yellow Pages and Google and different places like that, and then they send out an automated voicemail at like 10 o'clock at night, and it goes to these guys' cell phones or voicemails or whatever, and it leaves a message like, hey, I'm looking for, I've got roofing leads, and call me back. I've got some roofing leads I wanted to give you, call me back. And so the guys will call them back, and they'll leave a message on their phone. Hey, I got your email, or I got your voicemail, want to talk to you about these roofing leads, let me know. And so it's kind of this back and forth. And I use a similar method, and I'll show you that method in a second. But that's one way you can do it. Another way, and we've done this, is cold calling. It actually works. If you can get through to somebody and you let them know what you're doing, especially if you're doing more the upfront or the pay-per lead model, cold calling will work really well. Now, the beauty of that is when you're calling on Yellow Pages guys, you know that they've usually got money already. Now, you might want to try the actual physical Yellow Pages, because not all these guys are paying for advertising. But calling those guys directly out of the Yellow Pages is one of the simplest things to do. I mean, essentially that's what YP.com sales guys do. They go through Craigslist, they go through other advertising sources, Google, AdWords, places like that, and that's where they're finding their leads from, and they're just cold calling them. And cold calling for pay-per lead is probably one of the simplest cold calls you could ever do, because essentially, and I had a Yellow Pages guy do this to me. He actually called one of my clients, and I recorded the conversation. It was like a 10-minute call, and it was pretty smooth. It was just very simple, like, hey, is this Josh? Hey, Josh, I was calling to find out if you need some leads, man. And he's like, well, yeah, of course I need leads. All right, cool. You're in Atlanta, right? He's like, yeah, and he just kind of went through this real easy process of like, well, I'll tell you what, I want to send you some leads, but how about we get back together and let me do a little proposal for what I can do for you. It's just a real simple, just kind of a laid back guy in his approach, and really that's all you're doing. If you're doing pay per lead, you're basically saying to them, hey, I'm going to go out and do the work, and you only pay when I get results. So that's the pay per lead model. We're going to talk about pricing and all that, or and how, the types of ways to get paid in some later videos. But that's an easy way to do cold calling. If you're doing cold calling and you're trying to get an upfront monthly retainer or fee, then it is going to be a harder close on what's called a one sale close. So again, I don't want to get too much into the sales aspect right now. I'm just talking more marketing. So obviously you can find people in Yellow Pages. You can find them on Google. One of the really cool places obviously is Home Advisor. If you're not familiar with that, if you're doing contractors, homeadvisor.com. And this is sort of the mecca for all of these things. These guys are at least let's say it's a $100 million or $300 million company. They used to be Service Magic. They're pretty much the main competitor. Some guys swear by it. A lot of guys swear at it. So I've been known to use that in my sales tactics. When I'm talking to them, I'll mention, if they've ever heard of Home Advisor or Service Magic, to kind of gauge whether or not they're used to it, and we'll talk about that some more. So Home Advisor is something that a lot of these guys know about. Home Advisor does call on these guys. They do cold calling to get a lot of their leads in, and so they'll call on them. So if you click on any of these, like bathrooms, you're going to find bathroom remodelers and let's see, bathtub install, replace, and then if you put in your zip code, 6. I don't know, gosh. They change it now. Okay, I see what it's trying to do. It's trying to get me to go through the lead system. I forgot they changed this. So, let's see, Pro Reviews, I think, is the way to actually get to the list of guys. Yeah. There we go. So, let's just do air conditioning, and we'll do my zip code. Alright, there you go. So now you've got phone numbers, and you've got the names of these companies. Now, look, I mean, if you're going to cold call anybody, these are probably some of the best guys to cold call. Number one, you know that they're paying for these leads. Number two, if they've got good reviews, they're a solid company. So these are going to be some of your best guys to be calling and striking up a conversation and saying, hey, could you handle some more leads? I've got leads that are coming in. Now, these guys are used to this, okay? That's how they do business. Most of them are not the big players with the billboards and the big 30 trucks and all that. Most of these guys are on the smaller to medium size end. Now, yes, you do have those gigantic companies in each area, but really, there's never like 100 of them in one area. Like, I live in Atlanta, and there's only probably 3 or 4 that I could name off the bat of big time HVAC or big time plumbing companies that are in my area. And I live in a pretty metropolis, like 5 million people area. So, if you're going to have a brand, you're going to be there. So a lot of these guys are smaller, and that's why they do it. Been in business since '84. These are the types of customers you really want to have. If you're going to go after anybody, if you're going to pursue anybody, these are the types of guys that you're going to want to go after. Okay. Another place is obviously LinkedIn. If you type in roofer, you can break it down by just United States, and you can find all kinds of guys that are on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn's a different type of animal. What you really need to do is, if you're going to do any type of marketing on LinkedIn, you've really got to do it from a relational standpoint, because remember, it's social networking. It's just like Facebook, except these guys are on LinkedIn to do business. But they're good at ignoring emails, so it is a numbers game, and basically you're going to want to connect with them. Now, one of the best things you can do is obviously get into a group and start, kind of like if you're on the Warrior Forum or something like that, basically start giving out free information about marketing and ways that they can market their business more. It's just basically a positioning thing. And then you might want to, reach out to, let's see, Tom Miller's an owner of TM Construction. Okay, so he probably owns a construction company, and he was a roofer at Miller Roofing, so he's kind of stepped up his game. I could probably go through there and start learning about some of the things he does. I might try to find a group he's in, and I might join some of those groups. Now, I have no idea if there's construction groups. There probably is, construction groups or HVAC groups or whatever. Join those groups and then start reaching out to some of those guys. When I was in financial services, that was one of the ways we would, as financial advisors, we'd reach out to our ideal client on LinkedIn, and we'd just send them a basic email, and it would be something like, hey, you and I don't know each other, but we share a group. That was kind of our lead in. And then after that, we'd say,
I have no idea if it would make sense or not, or I'm not sure if it would make sense or not for you right now. But I'd love to, buy you a cup of coffee and kind of sit down with you and learn a little bit more about what you're doing in business or in life or something of that nature. And usually that kind of gets the ball rolling. With these guys, you'll probably have to try a couple of different angles, but essentially the same thing. You could probably be a little more blunt. Hey, you and I share a group. Notice that you're actively networking. Wanted to know if you're interested in getting some leads. Real simple. And then shoot it out to them and see what you got. Again, these are going to be your, more highly qualified type of leads, generally speaking, if they're on here because they're spending time marketing themselves. Now, not everybody's going to work. Make sure you drill down and actually look at what they're, what they have to say. And then finally, Craigslist. Obviously, it's kind of a no-brainer. I learned this technique from another gentleman in another group, and I'd have to find exactly who it was. But basically, what he shared was, if you're going to get leads, you want people calling you, and essentially that's what we do. So one of the things that I do, and I do it pretty well, is we post in the labor gigs section, and we post a basic ad telling these guys, hey, look, if you're tired of going around Craigslist and searching for leads, because a lot of them, what they do is they go here to labor and they might type in, let's say electrician. Okay, so they'll type in electrician, and boom, I'm in dire need of electrician who's willing, hiring painters, local handyman, contractors needed, master electrician. Okay, and so they'll look for that and they'll click on all those ads. Well, that's where I put my ad so that they'll click on it, and when they do, that's when I introduce them to my service and say, hey, look, this is what I do, this is how I can help you, give me a call. And that's it. I mean, it's really, some basics, just like basics of Craigslist advertising, which is, if you're going to do this, it's got to be straight to the point. It can't be beat around the bush. When you're doing copywriting for Craigslist, it's not a whole, 10-page long form sales letter. It's very, very simple. We provide quality leads from people that are looking for your services in the Atlanta area right now. Please give me a call so we can chat about it. We're looking for electricians, handyman, plumbers, lawn service, you name it, that's who we're looking for. And you can make different types of ads. You can make a generic ad, or you can make a, that covers all of the different kinds. When I first got started, I was looking specifically for HVAC guys because I wanted just HVAC and I wanted to work with just them. I found that that's probably not a good idea. You want to have multiple niches if you can. A lot of guys will say, hey, just don't be a generalist, be a niche specialist. Well, let me tell you, if you're in the trades, you need to have at least 5, 10, 15 trades that you're working with. That way, you're not stuck with the seasonality. For example, when I got started, it was winter time, and HVAC was popular for a period of time. And then once it kind of hit the spring, and it was that transition between really cold and really hot, nothing was happening. And I was losing crazy money because nobody was making phone calls because, hey, they didn't have to have their AC on. They just needed to open their windows. So you want to have the electricians and plumbers. Those are more steady. Handyman are very steady. You've always got leads like that. So you want to target those types of businesses. So that's it for client lead generation. Essentially what you're going to be doing is looking for them where they are, whether it's Yellow Pages, Home Advisor, LinkedIn, Craigslist. I like using Craigslist. The problem with using Craigslist is you're going to attract all kinds of people. And again, I'll talk about my sales process in the next video. But you have to know that if you're going to use Craigslist, you're going to get a lot of guys that are kicking tires, or a lot of guys that have absolutely no money. They're just getting started. Them and their brother from down the another mother kind of thing got together and said, "Hey, man, let's be roofers today." And they get on Craigslist and they start looking for roofing jobs, and they ain't even got licenses, or they ain't got there's some roofers that they're just marketers. That's all they do. They go around, knock on doors, and look at the hailstorms, and then they hire out a local roofing company to do the job, and they split the money 50-50, and they make some money. So if you're good at marketing, you can definitely make some money. So that's it for this video on client lead generation, and next video we'll talk about sales. Thanks. Alrighty, welcome to the video on actually selling the deal.
Okay, now, so in this video, what we're going to cover is actually how to make the sale to the prospective client. Now, we've already talked a little bit about lead generation to get clients, and we talked about different ways. Specifically, I use the Craigslist method predominantly for what I do. So for me, that's the primary angle that I can teach you from. Now, we have done cold calling, and I've had outsourcers do that for me as well, and they basically followed a script that we utilized in terms of talking with people and such. But really, if you're new, if you're not comfortable with cold calling, what I'm about to show you is kind of the best way to do it, and it's really to take a consultative approach. So as you can see, I'm not a big user of PowerPoint. I can't stand PowerPoint, actually. I think there's way too many videos with PowerPoint in black and white and all this other crap. So we're just going to get right to it with my notes. Number one, mindset is everything. You're hearing this all over the internet. You got to have this great mindset, and you got to be just have all these weird ways of looking at things. When I say mindset is everything, what I mean is the way you've positioned or thought about your service in your own mind, and how that manifests when you're talking to people. So, for example, if I'm talking to a contractor about what I do I give him the upper hand and allow him to pepper me with questions, or do I take the approach of, this is what we do? I prefer to take the high ground approach, which is that. So to me, the mindset is everything, in that when I'm talking with a prospective client, especially in these industries, you really have to be somewhat tough. And I don't mean like you have to be abrasive or mean, or don't use foul language and things like that. Don't necessarily talk at someone's level with their their habits or whatever, but you can use some of their mannerisms. There's all kinds of sales techniques called mirroring and things like that, where you sort of mirror the other person's tone and the way they're talking, and that's really advanced sales type strategies. But for this, the key thing is to just be yourself. I have on more than one occasion just told guys, hey, look, this is me. This is what I do. I'm a local guy, or I'm in Atlanta, and this is how I feed my family. When you're that gut level honest with these guys, they're going to hear you and they're going to take you at your word, because they're in the same boat. Most of these guys are good, hardworking, blue-collar guys, again, if you're dealing with construction, who are predominantly out on the field every single day trying to make ends meet for their home. Now, some of them are more business owner type, and you have to know who you're talking to, and that's why I use the consultative approach, because you have a varied spectrum when you're actually doing this. You're gonna have some guys who, like I said, they're just doing it part time, or they're just getting started. They really don't have a business. All the way to the other end of the spectrum, where you've got guys that are running 10 trucks, and they've got 20 guys working for them, and 5 crews, and all this other stuff. So you really have to understand who you're talking to. Now, especially when you're talking to those business owner guys, you have got to be strong, and you've got to be confident in what you're saying, because if you're not, they're going to eat you alive. They're like dogs. They will smell fear, and they will eat you alive. So it's very important that you come with a confidence, and you are at the same time honest. If you don't have the confidence, I would suggest obviously knowing your quote unquote pitch, or your sales talk as best you can, and you can practice with people. Talk with other people about what you're doing, and allow yourself to explain the benefits of why this is such a good thing. I can't tell you how many times I've done that with whether it was new business opportunities or new things I was getting involved in, and I still hadn't formulated my sales talk. I'll be talking to a friend of mine, and like, hey, what you got going on now? And I'll tell them about, hey, I'm working with contractors. Oh, that's cool. What are you doing with them? Well, we're getting them leads. Well, what do you mean by that? And so I start explaining, and next thing you know, I'm, in a way, pitching them on my service. But what it does is it gives me words to say. It formulates for me a strategy of how I want to talk to these potential clients. So when I say mindset is everything, I'm not talking about the whole name it and claim it, or the manifestation type mindset. I'm talking about the confidence and sort of the swagger that when you're talking to them, you have to remain in authority and in control. Just like right now when I'm teaching you, I'm not kind of pussyfooting around, or just kind of timidly saying, well, guys, I think you should do it this way. No, I'm saying confidently, this is what I've done, this is what works for me, and this is what I think you should do. in sales period, people like it when they talk like that because they don't feel like you're trying to sell them. They feel like you're just being honest. And you could say, look, this is what I've done, or hey, this is a new service. I'm going to charge you on a per lead basis, so it's only results, but you got to meet me halfway and give me a credit card number. If we can't do that, we can't do business. Don't be afraid to walk away. That's another mindset thing. So there's all kinds of those things, and we'll get into that a little bit as we discuss the actual sort of the script that I use. Number 2, you see voicemail or not to voicemail. Now, I have been bombarded, or not bombarded, lambasted, I guess you could say. I've talked to other sales guys, and they're like, why would you let it go to voicemail? Well, so here's my lead generation strategy is I post ads, and I get people to call me. Okay, so very similar to what the contractors do. By using Craigslist, also, we know that it's an open market. Whether you're using Craigslist, you're using Facebook, you're using Yellow Pages, whatever it is you're using, YouTube, Google Ads, whatever you're using, you obviously want phone calls. You want people calling you. You want contractors calling you. That's the best method for this. Now, cold calling does work, especially if you're doing the pay per lead model. There's a lot of guys that will just sign up right away because they're used to it. Okay, as long as you sound credible, you don't sound like you're trying to run something over on them. You follow through on your promises. You send them follow-up emails. That's why I set up my system the way it is, and you'll see in the sales and marketing tricks, if you will, where when I'm signing somebody up, what we literally do is answer a questionnaire with them, and then as soon as it's done, it automatically sends out an email to them. The reason for that is so that they get that email and they say, oh, okay, the information I just gave him is now sitting right in front of me on my email inbox. That shows me that they're somewhat legit. Okay, it just gives you sort of that legitimacy to what you're doing. So with voicemail or not voicemail, what I do is I actually have them, for the most part, I have everything running to a Google Voice number. And the reason I do that is because I don't like having my cell phone or any of my other phone numbers kind of going around the internet. The other reason is because sometimes you can get bombarded with phone calls. I remember one time I posted an ad on Friday at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was looking for painters, and I had 15 call me within an hour. 15 leads within an hour, okay? And we ended up signing like 6 of them within just like a couple days or something. So it's very simple to use this method. Obviously, you have to weed out the ones that are going to be good and the ones that are not going to be good. So, but yeah, so what I normally do is have people leave voicemails. And the other reason I have them leave a voicemail is because I want to hear what they sound like. Now, it's not that I'm judging them based on whether or not they sound smart or anything like that, but I want to hear what they say in regards to the ad, because there are many guys that are confused or they don't read correctly, especially if you would go into certain areas where their English is not the dominant language, and those gentlemen have a hard time understanding your ad, and they may think you're looking to hire somebody when in reality you're not. So I like to let it go to voicemail and hear what it sounds like, see if it's something that somebody I want to work with, and go from there. And then I call them back. Sometimes I'll call them back right away. Other times I'll wait till the next day. I like to do it on my terms. That way the business is not dictating me, but I dictate the business. So let me give you now kind of a rundown of how I actually do my sales presentation. And I keep kind of a script or really a list of questions in front of me when I'm talking to them. And I've also developed it for my salespeople when they're making phone calls for me. And the reason why is because if you just go off the cuff, you're probably going to have a hard time. You're going to get asked questions, or you may not know the answer to something. So it's good if you can have a list of questions that will help you stay on task. And just kind of like the reason why I have this right here is so that I can, actually have sort of a train of thought, if you will. I mean, I could just make the video and just kind of talk and talk and talk, but there'd be no, keeping me on track. So these these numbers kind of keep me on track for what I'm doing. So the key to me is what I call asking the right question. Now, a lot of sales guys, just out of habit of being good communicators and persuasive speakers, tend to be very good at speaking too much. Meaning they don't do a good job listening, and they're trying to sell with their mouth instead of their ears. To me, the mark of a good salesman is somebody who can sell with their ears, not with their mouth. Write it down. That's a very important quote. Okay. The reason why is because if you're just just dumping on someone. Hey, let me tell you about how awesome we are. We can jam you up, man. We can give you leads and all this other stuff. And we can have your guys running around. Or I've heard quotes about, like, hey, we can give everybody at your job a raise. I mean, just whatever, dumb stuff like that. And maybe it works for some guys, but most of the guys I've interacted with, they're kind of tired of the bull crap. Okay, these guys get called all the time from Home Advisor and from the Yellow Pages and from all these other places. They just want real people. So the way you're going to make money in this business is if you're just real with them, if you just interact like a real, genuine person. Okay, so the first thing, what happens normally is I'll call them. I'll say, hey, can I speak to Joe, please? And Joe will answer, hey, Joe, this is Mark. You left me a voicemail about a Craigslist ad. Is this a good time? And he'll say, oh, yeah, I remember. Okay. And I always like to ask that question, is this a good time? And the reason for that is because that kind of gives me an idea of whether or not they're busy, but it also shows them that I'm cognizant of their time, of what they're doing. I'm aware that, hey, they've got a job, they've got a business as well. And that way they can also say, yeah, this isn't really a good time. And I'll say, great, no problem. When can I call you back? And schedule that time. And then call them back, follow up. But anyways, so once I kind of move past that, the first thing they're going to start saying is, yeah, so tell me, what do you do and how much does it cost and all this stuff. That's where I pause them right there in the conversation. Do not answer their questions. Let me reiterate that one more time. Do not answer the questions. Do not get stuck in this vortex of where the prospect starts to run the dialogue in the conversation. The reason is because then you're at a job interview, not a consultative sales presentation. Okay, there's a huge difference between the two. They're used to calling back guys that are vendors, other plumbers, other contractors, other bankers, other people that are selling them stuff. And so they look at them as just vendor relationships. Yeah, tell me what you got, what product you have, and how much can I buy it for, kind of thing. And you want to take the complete opposite direction. You say, I'll get to that in 1 second. Why don't you first tell me about your business again? What kind of business do you have? That right there always stops them in their track. Now I'm in control of the conversation. Tell me about your business. Okay, awesome. So you're a plumber, or you do this. Okay, do you do residential, commercial? And usually while they're talking, I'm taking notes. Okay, take notes while they're talking. Listen to the things that they're saying. So I said, sell with your ears, not with your mouth. Okay, and so as they're talking, I'll hear them, say, well, I do this. This is my business. Okay. Next question I want to ask them is, what kind of marketing are you already doing? Okay, what does that tell me? That qualifies me, or qualifies them, into whether or not they're even a fit for what I'm doing. So if I'm just primarily interested in maybe $400 a month or $300 a month type guys, right? Let's say that's all I'm selling. I'm not doing any pay per lead. And if a guy calls me and says, well, I've only been out here for about a month or two, and just kind of doing word of mouth, and I got a couple of real estate investors I work for. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, stop right there. Pretty much they're not going to be a fit for what you're trying to do. Now, with just like any other type of sales, you're going to have to go through numbers of people to get to the right type of client. Okay, I turn down people all the time in my business because I've learned that if I take on every Tom, Dick, and Harry contractor, I'm going to frazzle my brain out and rip my hair out because I'm so frustrated with these guys. Okay, I did that for a while and it was overwhelmingly ridiculous. Now I only take on guys that I want to take on. Okay, I don't deal with all the other stuff. I don't mess with it. Okay, so if you're in a pay-per-lead situation, you can probably work better with those types of guys that are newer, but you're going to want to get something up front. You're going to want to get a credit card number, and it can't be a prepaid debit card. That won't work. Now, Braintree obviously will take it, but you don't want to get into that situation. You want to be able to run people's credit cards, so you want to make sure that they've got a legitimate amount on there. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So, when they say, I'm doing this kind of marketing, a lot of guys will say, well, I've tried, different lead networks like Home Advisor or what is the other one? There's quite a few big ones out there. These are your competitors essentially. And and I'll say, again, not every question is written down here, but so what I'll say is, oh, okay, well, tell me about your experience with Home Advisor. Because now what I want to do is I want to gauge what they thought about one of my competitors. So they say, oh, man, it was kind of cool because I was getting leads, but I couldn't stand the fact that they were, sending them out to 10 other guys.
Well, that's interesting because we actually don't do that. I'll tell you more about that in a second. What did I do? I just seeded him with the idea that we're different from our competitor and we have something better. But I'm not telling him what it is. I'm just saying we're different. We're going to talk about that in a second. So keep telling me what else you do. You really want to engage with them in a conversation to get them to tell you as much as they can about their business and themselves. They're going to sell you with your ears. Okay, you're gonna sell them with your ears, and they're gonna sell themselves with their mouth. Basically, you want them selling them on why you should do business with them, not the other way around. Okay, and that's the way we're taking this approach. So if we were to work together, what would you hope to accomplish? The reason I asked that question is because I want to gauge their expectations. Some guys expect 10 calls a day. Other guys expect 1 call a month. Okay. I have got one client who's in the mold, fire, water damage industry, and they really don't expect more than 1 or 2 phone calls a month, and they're good to go. Okay, for what we do for them, and they're on a monthly retainer, and it's great. It's nice. We do our posting, and that's it. Other guys, they expect 2 phone calls a day, and if they don't get 2 phone calls a day, they're not satisfied, and that's just the way they do their business. Okay. So we want to know kind of what their expectations are. Expectations are everything in business. If you can get somebody's expectations, you're going to go far. Next question I want to ask is, what's your average revenue per sale? Now, if you ask it like that, they may not understand what you're saying. So that's, for me, that's the way I write it. I tend to think a little more technically. So I'd say, well, tell me, Joe. So if I were to send you on a phone call, on a lead, right, and you were to go out to this house, and let's say, what would be like an average job you would get at a house? Oh yeah, I'd probably do a repair on, I don't know if it's an HVAC guy. Usually I've got to do something with their air compressor or something like that. It could be a good $300-400. Okay, would you say that's about average? Yeah, I'd say that's about average. Some calls are just my service call of, $95 call out, or sometimes I get, big installs, which that's a $2,500 deal. So somewhere between that, I'd say $300 about an average. Okay, cool. So if you had 10 qualified, leads, how many of them could you close? Oh gosh, I feel like I'm a pretty good salesperson, they're saying. I could probably close a good 7, 8 of them. I've got good pricing and, warranties. We've been around for a long time. Okay. Again, what am I doing right there? I'm allowing them to sell themselves on how good they are and how good we are, because we understand their business. We don't have to know anything about AC. We don't have to know anything about electricians. Okay, I learned it over time by listening to them. I picked up their language by listening to these guys talk. So now I can talk with them, about whether they're doing, like I said, the installs or doing some of these different things. Now I don't claim to be, in that field, and I don't know all their language, but I definitely try to pick up on some of the nuances of things that they say. So they say, I can close 7 or 8, leads. Okay, so that's a pretty good amount of business you can get if I sent you 10 leads, right? Okay, cool. So let me tell you how we work. And that's where you go into whether or not you are doing pay per lead, whether or not you're doing percentage of sale, or whether or not you're doing a flat fee type of situation, which we're going to cover in that video about pricing models. So when you explain how you work, don't just dump 100 words a minute on them. Talk a little bit slow. Make sure they understand, because again, some of these guys are calling you from a job site. I can't tell you how many sales calls I've done where they're like stopping me in the middle and they're yelling at some laborer to put that down and get over here and go do this and we'll be back, and it happens. Okay, you're not dealing with Sally in the office or Joe the lawyer. You're dealing with a guy that's usually out on the street. So you want to tell them briefly how you work, what you do. Now, here's the thing. Craigslist is the main thing that I've used for lead generation, and we'll talk about getting client leads. It doesn't matter what you're using, but usually it'll come up and they'll ask you. What I always say is that look, I'm an internet marketer, and what we do is we advertise for you on a regular basis, on a daily basis, to get you phone call leads. And sometimes I'll say something like, we advertise on Backpage, sometimes Google, sometimes YouTube, sometimes Craigslist. Now, don't lie. If you don't do those places, don't say that. You can just, if they ask, you just tell them, yeah, we do Craigslist. If they say, oh, well, I could do that myself. Well, you could, but you'd also have an issue with flagging and things of that nature. And then you can say something like the fact of this. Here's another way I've sold it out. It's like, look, Joe, you're an AC guy, and I would think that if I were to call you to my house because I wanted you to look at my AC unit, and then you tell me all the different things that you could do or that you would do, and I hear everything you say, I write down notes, and then I just go and try to do it. Do you think that would work out too well? Say, no, probably not. Why? Well, because I'm the one with the experience, and I'm the one who's got the license, and this is what I do. You know, you pretty much, you pay me, and you go do what you got to do. Exactly, Joe. So it's the same thing. So I'm not a licensed internet marketer, but I'm an experienced direct response marketer, and I'm good at what I do. So imagine waking up every day and not having to worry about marketing your own services, but allowing me to take care of it for you on a regular basis, not having to battle Craigslist or battle Backpage or any of these other places that we advertise on, so that you can go and do your work, right? Because the more time you're sitting in front of a computer, that means what, Joe? The less amount of money that's going into your back pocket. You see, you have to qualify it that way. You have to make him understand that what you're doing is a value-added service. And when you set a price, you stay on that price. You don't, do all this negotiating, haggling, all this other. No. This is our price. We don't compete on price because we believe very much in what we do. If you start competing on price with these guys, they will rip you a new one. They will take you and they will tear you down, and they will do all kinds of crazy stuff with the pricing, or they just won't pay you. And we've had a lot of those guys that come and go that just don't pay, and you've got to be on the lookout for them. This is how you deal with that. This is how you work that out. So usually in that, here's how we work. A lot of times, or most of the time, I don't even tell them the price at that point. I will tell them what we do on a pay-per-lead basis, or what we do on a flat fee basis, or what we do on a percentage of sale. And then I get into, so if you could make, I don't know, $2,000 or $1,000 from those 10 leads, what would that do for your business, and how much would that be worth to you? Well, that'd be pretty cool. Add an extra $1,000 a month or extra $1,000 a week. That'd be awesome. That's $4,000 a month. It's, get them talking about what it can do for their business. That way, you're now in a position to say, okay, so if you can make $1,000 a week, let's say they feel like they're going to make $2,500 or $4,000 a month, and it only cost you $400, Joe, do you think that would be worth it to you? Well, yeah. Okay, Joe. So how do right then, now you've got them. So, Joe, what would it take to move forward? How can we move forward today? How can I get you some leads going right now? What do you want to do? Put it back in their boat. I've used so many different closing lines. A lot of times I can tell. Most of the time what I'll do is I'll stop after I say the price. So, Joe, for us to do all of what we talked about, including call tracking and all these different things, it will cost you $297 a month. And I stop. Do not say another word. The reason why is it's called the dramatic pause, and you want to allow them to now try to disqualify or try to come up with a reason. The reason why is because if you start, it's $297 a month, but here's why, because and you start speaking, you're going to speak yourself right out of the sale. You pause and you allow them to answer what you just said. They'll ponder. They'll go, sometimes they'll go, wow, that's a lot of money. I can't do that. Okay, well then you obviously don't, I believe fully in the leads I bring you. Maybe you're having a hard time with your sales, ability, and I can help you with that, Joe. If you want, you and I can have a conversation. I can work with you on your sales strategy in terms of how you're talking to clients, how you're billing them, or how you're doing whatever it is that you don't feel like you can do to close those leads. Because I am very confident in the fact that I can bring you that many leads on a regular basis. And if I can't, I can put my money where my mouth is. A lot of times I'll even say to guys, now, some guys will say, hey, let's do a refund or something like that. But most of the time what I'll say is this, look, you and I are on the same team. You're out to feed your family, you're out to do a business, and you want long-term clients. You want long-term customers. I'm in the same boat. I don't want to be selling every single guy out there. I don't want to work with hundreds of contractors. I just want to work with one in this area, or 5 in this area, or just a few guys that I can trust, and that are going to do good business together, and that we can have a long-term relationship. You see how I'm saying that everything is about long-term relationship and trust. Okay, those are the key points that are going to get you the sale, because then they're going to think about that and go, yeah, you're right. And then I'm going to say, you know what? It doesn't behoove me, or it doesn't make any sense to send you, crappy leads, or, to make it so that after 1 month you don't want to do business anymore. Now, does it? Well, no, it doesn't. Right. It would be a waste of my time. I mean, what's a couple $100, for me and you sitting on this phone for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and it's good. We're getting to know each other, but it's not worth it to me to continue to do this every day, all day, if I'm not getting long-term clients. It's just not worth it. So I'd rather do good business and earn that trust and earn that respect from you over time, and that's what I plan to do. So you want to let me do it? And that's the way I position it. So that's Sales Strategies 101. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on about the different ones, but that's just kind of a breakdown of the basics of how I sell and how I talk to these guys. I know this was a much longer video, but there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be learned about sales, and if you've never sold in this type of market. When you're dealing with them, like I said, mindset's everything. You want to make sure that you're in control, that you're the guy, you're the authority or girl, whoever's doing this. Ladies, if you're doing this, you don't have to be gruff. You don't have to be mean. But sound like you're an authority, sound like a grown-up, sound like someone who's in control, who's very confident in what they do. And if you don't have confidence when you do it afraid. Literally, go through the awkward, what I call the awkward stumble phase. Every entrepreneur goes through it. Every new business owner goes through it. It's the awkward stumble. That's where you're like a baby and you're trying to go from crawling to walking. You're getting up. You feel wobbly. You don't feel like you can do this call right, and you just do it. Whether, I've had guys, actually I've never had anyone hang up on me. I've had some of my sales guys get hung up on because they were being too pushy. But, overall, if you're just honest with people, gut level honest, saying, look, this is what I do. I'm willing to come out. I remember when I first started, I was coming out of just more the digital ebook world. I was like, look, I got tired of doing that. I want to work with some good offline guys or, real business owners like yourself and help them, use my marketing chops to do that. That's all they care about. They're like, wow, that's really cool. That's their thought process. So that's it, guys. Whether you use voicemail or not, whether you answer your phone or not, make sure you ask the right question. Make sure you stay in control of the conversation. Don't let it direct you. You direct it. All right, see you in the next video. All right, welcome to the simple local leads video on pricing strategies. Now, you can use these strategies for any type of niche, whether you're doing contractors or you're doing anything else. Contractors, just like I said, that's just kind of the niches that I kind of chose to do. Understood it, the blue collar aspect, I liked it, and so that's kind of what I chose. So we're going to talk about 3 different pricing strategies for how you can do this, and we'll get right into it right now. So the first one we want to talk about is pay-per-lead. And pay-per-lead is probably one of the most common, and you hear it all the time. And that's where I send a phone call or an email, but in our case, we're just talking about phone calls. And we get, do my little thing here, let's say $25. Okay, so for every phone call I send them, I'm going to get $25. Now, here's the caveat. Okay, what I like to do is make it every call over 30 seconds long. Okay, and that's why if you're using call tracking, if you're going to use pay-per-lead, you've really got to have call tracking. Really, in any of this, you got to have call tracking. It's just one of those necessities. If you can't afford the ACT software, there are other plugins out there, and we'll talk about that. Or at least there's one plugin out there, a WordPress plugin. It's like $20 or something like that, and then there's a couple of other things. So you can get started with something cheaper, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If you treat this like some sort of CPA deal or affiliate deal, you're not going to make any money. You might as well pack up and quit. It's not that you have to invest hundreds or thousands of dollars to do this, but it's good if you can invest a little bit of money in yourself. So anyways, with pay-per-lead, what we're doing is we're essentially charging them $25 or $50 or $100 or $10 or $5 per phone call lead, and we qualified as every call over 30 seconds long. Some guys have a tire kicker, what they call a tire kicker policy, and that's where just somebody's just calling and they're just trying to get pricing details. A lot of guys don't want to pay for that. It's up to you whether or not you want to charge them for it. I look at it in 2 ways. One, there's no way for me to offset every single phone call, because here's what happens in pay-per-lead. A lot of these guys are going to miss, I'm going to be honest, about 50% of your phone calls are going to go unanswered, or it's going to go to their voicemail. Okay, and that's going to get very annoying, because if you're losing out 50%, let's say you send 10 phone calls and they only answer 5, you just lost out on now 50% of your revenue. Okay, so Me personally, when I've done pay-per-lead in the past, to me it was more of a, hey, occasionally I'm going to throw that lead out. And occasionally if it sounds like a bad lead because I go back and listen to the recordings, then I'm not going to take care of it, or I'm going to take care of it for that guy. And a lot of times I'll do that as a marketing strategy to keep them around, where I'm basically communicating to them, hey, look, I know what you're doing is hard, and I know it can get expensive, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this lead out for you. I'm not going to charge you for it, just to kind of, bring that goodwill. The other thing we want to get rid of is any type of sales calls or spam. Okay, if you're using ACT, they do have a great what's called a spam blocker, if you will. I think CallFire has something where it's like I forgot what they have. They have some sort of software built in or something that's got like phone numbers that are in like some sort of database. I believe that's what it is. I've never used CallFire. But anyways, with ACT at least, we were able to keep calls out by keeping a list of spammers, and we keep that across all of our clients. And so we have this like gigantic list we've accumulated since we've been doing this. So every time somebody calls from like Yellow Pages, which you won't believe how many phone calls you'll get from the Yellow Pages. Okay, when you get phone calls from these guys, then what you do is you basically just say, hey, look, this is spam. You don't count it, and then you put a block on it so that they can't call back again. At least that's what we do with ACT. So pay-per-lead's very simple. It's basically every phone call that you're sending. So if you send 3 phone calls and the guy stays on the phone longer than 30 seconds with 2 of them, we're going to count that as leads. And if we're selling it at $25 a lead, that's $50. Okay. I remember in January of this past year, we had an HVAC guy get like 12 or 14 phone calls on one day, and it was just insane. And it was because it was one of the coldest days here in Atlanta. He got so many phone calls, but he only answered like 5 of them, I think. So it ended up being a great week, on a lead generation basis. So you can easily make, some good money. My rule of thumb for guys, if you're getting like the one-off contractors, the guys that are kind of by themselves, they don't have a team and they're not really doing a whole bunch, I never send them more than $150 worth of business or $150 worth of leads a week. So that comes out to about $600 a month. And the reason for that is because most of them, when you've passed kind of that $125 or even sometimes $100 threshold, then you start running into some issues with cash flow. Then they start realizing, oh man, I've got to buy this part. Oh, I got to pay this guy. I got to pay this subcontractor. All these other issues that run into it. So you need to be aware that it's not going to work for everybody on that high. I used to think, oh, I can come in $250 a week or $150 a week, and I'm getting them all this business. Well, just because you're getting them business doesn't mean. This is the reality of it. Just because you're getting them business doesn't mean they're good with their money. Okay, a lot of these guys are in the positions they're in, and begging you for calls because they're bad with money. I had a guy once. He was late. He was like 2 weeks late on paying me, and he finally got back to me, and he's like, man, I need leads. What do I got to do? I said, you got to pay your bill. So he paid his bill, and I turned him on 2 more phone calls, and he missed them. He didn't answer his phone, and he couldn't. And so I stopped sending him calls, and he's like, what's going on? I was like, you didn't answer the 2 phone calls I sent you. He's like, no, I must have missed it somehow. I don't understand. I got 2 phones on me. And I went back and I looked at the call tracking, and I said, look, you got this call at this time and this day and this time and this day, and that was it. So when you're doing pay-per-lead, you've got to be very aware, very cognizant of the fact that a lot of them don't really understand it at first. A lot of them think that, it's only $25 a week, or they only, it's percentage of jobs. We had that for a while where guys thought, and this is when I was using an outsourced salesperson. So if you're going to do outsourced sales, make sure they understand what they're selling. They thought it was, I only get paid when they get paid, kind of thing. No, we don't work that way, at least in this position. Okay, so that's pay-per-lead. It's can be very lucrative, but some of the things I'd be aware of is if you're dealing with smaller guys, I wouldn't send more than $150 a week to them in leads. The other thing I would say too is that when you're signing them up, ask for 50 or so, ask them to prepay for 2 or 3 leads. If they can't prepay for 2 leads, they're going to be a waste of time. Just because somebody is willing and wants your leads doesn't mean they're a customer of yours. Doesn't mean they're a client. And the reason why is because, if you and I were to walk out to, like downtown Atlanta or something like that, and we're to say, hey, we've got, free beer or free food, free bread or something like that. And people came up to us. Maybe a homeless person comes up to us and say, hey, I'd love some, some beer. I'd love some bread. And beer's kind of a weird example, but I'd love some bread or whatever, and you give it to them. You say, okay, cool. Can you pay me next week? And they're like, yeah, I'll pay you next week. Let me get some more bread. Awesome, thank you. And every day you come back and you give them more bread, and you're gonna be able to pay me next week. Yeah, thank you so much. You're making me strong. I'm becoming really good at this, eating bread. And next week comes and they're gone. They have disappeared. They do not answer your phone anymore, your phone calls anymore. They're not your friends anymore. They're gone. And this is what happens. This is the reality of it. So my recommendation, if you're going to do pay-per-lead, is ask for $50 or $75, some token. Don't just get their credit card number and do $1. Get some money up front. This will also help with your cash flow. If you say, Mark, I'm not sure if I can generate leads, say this, then give them their money back. If you end up not being good at this, or you have a hard time generating leads, then you shouldn't be in this business. Okay? You shouldn't be doing this if you can't literally generate leads. And to generate leads, it's really not that hard. You post the ads. I show you how to do it, and that's it. It works. Okay. It'll be kind of weird and kind of scary, and like, timing's everything too, depending upon industries and things like that. But you get past it, you just do it, and and go from there. But I'd say, look, if I can't generate any leads for you in a week, I'll give you your money back. I mean, that's very simple. If you're running credit cards through Braintree, it's very easy to refund somebody after a week. Once it hits your bank account, I guess it takes a couple days, and then if it doesn't work out after a week, send them their money back. Then you'll know whether or not this was worth it, and whether or not it works. Okay, it works. It just takes some time. Sometimes getting used to it. Sometimes calls will come right away. Other times it'll take days before phone calls come in, depending upon what method you're using and how you're doing. If you're using just Craigslist, sometimes it'll be that day, and sometimes it'll be 3 days from then. Depends on niches, depends on cities. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that goes into it. Okay, so that's pay-per-lead. The next model is the flat fee, and this is what I predominantly use now. And the reason for flat fee, or let me explain. Flat fee is a monthly fee of, say, I don't know, like $300 a month. As bare minimum package or something like that. You can go, some guys charge up to like, let's say $600 a month. I've heard of for some of these packages. Okay, it depends on what you're offering, how many ads a day you're doing, things like that. Depends if you're doing Craigslist and a bunch of other stuff. A lot of guys will use Craigslist as kind of the in, and they'll just kind of pay a little bit of money, get them leads flowing, and then they'll throw them into a bigger package of like $1,000 or $2,000 a month. It includes SEO and all this other stuff, and that's where they're targeting bigger companies. So it's a little bit of a different model, but so essentially flat fee is that. The other way you can do flat fee is on a weekly basis. I do have some guys on a weekly basis, especially guys where I couldn't sell them on the monthly right up front, but they had some money and they're willing to do the $75 a week. And I said, you know what, let me do this. And so I've done it with a few guys. Usually it doesn't work out as long term as the $300 a month guys, and that's because if they don't have the money on a week-to-week basis, which is what happens, they'll have it for 2-3 weeks, and all of a sudden, oh man, I can't pay you this week. Let's pause the ads for this week, next week. And then it's like, okay, now we pick it up, and now we're paused again. Now we pick, you really don't want to get into that. So it's best, in my opinion, if you're going to do flat fee, do a monthly fee up front. And plus, you're getting cash flow. Because remember, you can't be in business if you don't have money. Okay, you will not survive doing this if you don't have money. Another thing I forgot to say with flat fee, it's really good if you don't know the company and they're not known to you. So if like you've never heard of them, they're a small business, the guys haven't been around very long, things like that, that's when it's better to get a flat fee up front. Pay-per-lead can work. To me, pay-per-lead's better when it's like a company that you've already had as a client, or you have already done business with in some regard. Like we did that with a guy. He had some different HVAC guys and things like that out of Houston and different places, and so he was basically getting, he already had their credit card on file. And so all we had to do is send them some leads. He'd call them up, say, hey, look, you got 3 leads this week. And they're like, cool, run it. And then we'd run the credit card, and that was it. So, somewhat easy to do on pay-per-lead. Flat fee, completely different. It is more of a trust basis. Obviously, they got to trust you, but, if you sound credible if you kind of take the approach I did with sales, like I was telling you, you will make those deals happen, and it's very exciting when it does happen the first time. You just and you follow up with people. That's another huge thing. You send them information, follow up with them. My very first flat fee deal, that's exactly what happened. I sent them the information, I talked with them, and then they actually, the day I was going to follow, I had them to follow up that day, and they called me and said, hey, let's get started. So it happens, but that's the way you got to do it. If you stay persistent in anything that's getting some sort of result, eventually you're going to get a good result. You've just got to stay persistent with it. All right, so let's talk about percentage of the deal. This is probably my least favorite. A lot of guys like this because they think it's like makes them part of the business or something, and they get more money. So yes, there's, you can make more money, but it's very risky in my opinion. So percentage of the deal is basically like we send a lead, they make 10,000, we make 2,000. Okay. So what we're doing is we're getting a percentage, like 20% of the deal. Okay, and so everything is then based on you. Everything's based on your marketing chops. You're sending out the lead, and then they make the money. Now, a lot of times they might want you to sell the deal, so that that you're kind of getting to get a higher percentage. But a lot of many guys that I've talked to, they'll offer that up front. I've had tons of guys, I'm talking to them about our flat fee, and next thing you know, they're saying, hey, I tell you what if I, if you're so good at what you do, how about you send me a lead, and if I make money, I'll give you a cut. No, not working like that. This does not really work with guys off the street. You really got to know them. You've got to be able to follow up with them. You really should be able to see them face to face, or you've got some heck of a trust factor with them, and they're just, because even companies that are legitimate can sometimes screw you over. Okay, just because they're a big business or they've been in business a while doesn't mean they're not going to fall subject to temptation in that regard. So really, to me, this got to be somebody or somebody you can like go visit their office, and kind of look through the different leads or whatever. Have them send you a report of following up on each lead and what happened with them. Everybody's different. Some guys really think this is the kind of the mecca, is when you can get a percentage of it. Personally, it's not my favorite way of doing it. So trust is a huge issue there. With the percentage of the deal type of scenario and type of situation. So those are three main ones: pay per lead, flat fee, percentage of the deal. There may be some other ones, but those are really the three main ones that people do. Companies like Home Advisor, things like that. You've got to be able to stick to your guns. Oh, I was going to say, that's right. With the percentage of the deal, if you're doing flat fee and somebody presents a percentage of the deal to you, what I normally like to say is like, well, that's interesting, Joe, that you said that, because if I were to have you come out to my house and I'd say, you tell me it's going to cost X amount of dollars to fix this, and then you say sure, I say sure, go ahead and fix it, and so you fix it and you get done, and I say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pay you in about 3 months. Is that going to work for you? Well, of course it's not going to work for you. Or it almost be like a mobile mechanic or something. You fix your car and then you drive home and you call them and say, oh, I'm going to eventually send you some money. No, they're not going to get paid. And you say, Joe, look, I have no control over the deal when that happens. I'd rather take my money up front because I know I'm sending you quality business. If what I'm sending you is not quality, let's talk about it then. But right now, that's not what's happening. Again, so everything in sales is positioning, it's mindset, it's saying, look, we're in control, we're doing the deal, this is who we are. So that was just a little caveat there, but so that's pricing strategies. See you in the next video. All right, welcome to the video on call tracking for simple local leads mastery. And in this video, we're going to do sort of a quick overview of call tracking, what it is, what it looks like, why you need it, and kind of just overview of sort of the software that I use, ACT, Analytic Call Tracking. Now, there's plenty of other different types of software. There's even a plugin, a Twilio plugin from a couple years ago that I believe still works. And there's places like Callfire and a couple other different places. A lot of them use Twilio as the actual phone line, or the phone number that you're going to get, as well as the minutes that you're going to be using. So ACT works the same way. Now, essentially, what you're going to be doing is
purchasing phone numbers, and if you use ACT, it's $1 per month per phone number according to Twilio. So you're basically using the software to buy the phone number, and you could buy it through Twilio if you wanted, but ACT has it so that you can just buy it right through their software. So you'll buy a number like this. This is a call tracking phone number. These are all call tracking phone numbers. And then what you want to do is forward these phone numbers to your client's phone. So in this example, we had 3 different ones because we were using different marketing channels. So Craigslist is a channel, Backpage is a channel. If we wanted to use YouTube ads, that could be a channel. Or if we use like yellowpages.com, pay-per-call, that could be a channel. So all of these are different channels, or we use them also for like different products or services. So this particular number went for like more handyman type calls, and this particular one went more for HVAC type calls. So as you can see, what we did was we bought the phone number and then we forwarded it directly to our client. And so what happens is, you can see right here is that here's the campaign number, and then here's the phone number of the person that called them, and then it was obviously going to my client here. And then it shows you the city and state, and then it shows you how long they stayed on the phone. And then it has a recording button here. If you press play, you'd actually hear the recorded conversation of my client talking to this prospective person. So this is great because, number one, I can see how long they were on the phone. Number two, we've got this great recording, so we can justify the leads that we're doing. And with ACT, at least, and I think all of the different call tracking platforms, they allow you to set up a user name and email for your clients, so that they're able to go in and see this exact same thing here. So they can actually listen to the recordings, and they can see the numbers that called them and such, and all the time and date of those pieces. Now, that's important information because let's say you're going to bill per lead, you got to be able to prove that you got phone call leads. The recording is also important because you can go back and listen to them and make sure they're not spam, solicitors. I've listened to yellowpages.com people calling my clients, and I've listened to their sales calls and take notes using some of the strategies they've used to try to talk my clients into becoming a client of theirs. So it's actually quite fascinating listening. I've heard some doozies of calls. I mean, I've heard, people asking certain things, and it's just hilarious, some of it. But it's also good for training too, because you can give tips and insights to your clients. Like, for example, I've got one client that just struggles with answering his phone, and we've talked about, hey, I've noticed you're not answering your phone a lot. So make sure you're answering your phone. And number two, when he answers his phone, he just says, hey, this is Josh, or whatever his name is, instead of actually saying the name of his company. And so when you say the name of your company, it's obviously a lot more professional, and that's what people are looking for. I can't tell you how many times a guy will answer the phone and be like, hey, how's it going? And the other person go, hi, I'm looking for an AC person. Do you do AC repair? Even though they just saw an ad and they just called a phone number, and they're talking to this guy, they don't realize that, hey, this is an AC repairman because of the way he answered the phone. So encourage your clients to answer their phone properly. Hey, this is Joe with AC Repair in Atlanta. How can I help you? That type of friendly, outgoing, that right there is instant trust, instant credibility for your client. It will increase their sales automatically because people know that they can know them, like them, trust them right off the bat. Okay, if they answered, hey, this is Joe, what's up? He sounds like he's just working for beer money. And, in the contractor niche, you'll get a lot of that. Other niches might be different. Maybe if you're dealing with somebody in the financial or the attorney niche, it's obviously they're gonna have that already. They're answering their phone that way. But if you're dealing with freelance type guys or people that are more individual businesses, they're answering it on their cell phones, things like that. You want to make sure that they are actually answering their phone properly. So that's very important. So as you can see on an ad here, I've got this call tracking number, and so that once that person calls that number, then it goes, right here. So it's very simple setup. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. Each client takes me, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes to actually set them up in ACT. Very simple. It's great for keeping track of, whether you're doing pay per lead or you're doing a weekly thing, whatever it is that you want to actually accomplish and do. So guys, that's call tracking 101.
make sure that you get some sort of system set up so that you can do this and justify your calls. I can't tell you how many times guys have said to me, I didn't know I got any calls this week." I said, "Well, did you log into the system and check on your voicemails, and check on the recordings?" And they're like, "No, I didn't realize I needed to do that." So remind them that they need to do that. Okay, so it's very simple. Get your call tracking phone number for your client. Have at least one per client. You might want to try 3 or 4 if you're testing out different ads and things of that nature. Make sure you've got all that taken care of. All right, so that's call tracking 101. All right, welcome to our next video in Simple Local Leads Mastery. Now we start getting into the fun stuff, getting the client results. And what I mean by fun stuff, it's where the rubber meets the road, where you start actually getting results. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different channels to do that. However, I've really mastered this one channel because it works. Okay, I like using Craigslist to get leads. I'm not the first guy that's said that. This is not necessarily a new concept, but for those of you who are new to this world or really don't know if you can make money with it, I want to show you some things of how big and how vast this website is. Now, it's often quoted as the, top 10 or top 8 most visited sites in the world, but not every site is the same with Craigslist. So if you look down here on nearby Craigslist, and you got all these different cities that are nearby, and then you've got all these U.S. cities, not all of them are going to be the same in terms of traffic, in terms of how good they are with getting people. So what I want to try to do is kind of give you sort of an overview to help you get started in terms of what are good places to post and what are not. So right off the bat, one of my favorite places to post are what I call mid-level markets. And those are markets with people between at least a couple 100,000 and maybe 3 or 4 million. Atlanta is one of those exceptions because it is just so heavily used, but it's not overly populated in terms of posting. Now, it is in certain sections, like I've got a moving client in the Atlanta market, and for him, we have to do a lot of posts every day just to get calls. In a lot of other services or niches, you don't necessarily need a ton. And really what we recommend is about 3 ads a day for most companies. Once you kind of get beyond that, then you're probably in an over-competitive market. So for example, on this page right here, Chicago is overly competitive. Houston can be, but I've gotten some good results from Houston. New York is way too competitive. Let's see, Seattle, San Francisco, those are really your hyper-competitive markets where you're just not going to get a whole lot of traction. I don't know if I said LA, and sometimes Miami can be that way as well. A lot of these others, Austin can be okay. Boston tends to be hyper-competitive. Denver's pretty good. Detroit's pretty good. Las Vegas, decent. Phoenix is really hard because it's hard to post in sometimes. There's a lot of algorithm issues with some of these different sites, and it's almost like because Craigslist.org is one big site, but then it's got all these sub-sites. So like this is atlanta.craigslist.org. So it's almost like it has its own set of rules that are kind of running everything. So let me take you inside. Let's see. So let's look at services real quick. And if you look at automotive, what we want to do is look at ads. So like, for example, let's try mobile mechanic. Okay, and we'll search that. So as you can see right here, there are 1,500 ads right now in Atlanta for mobile mechanic, because that is one of the hot niches. Okay, and as you can see, these today's May 29th, so if you scroll down, you can see that right now there's already 100 ads posted. Let's see if there's more for today. This is just mobile mechanic. So like this guy's got 1, 2, 3, at least 4. Is this the same one? Yep. 4 ads right there. You know, because a lot of guys will post multiple ads per day just to get some sort of, you know, on the first page. So like, let's say this guy posted. Let's see what time he posted at. He posted 7 hours ago, and he's already on the end of page 2 down here, because there are already almost, yep, we're almost at 200 posts for today, and we're not even through the day yet. This is about like 180 or 190 posts already in mobile mechanics. So that tells me that this is a hyper competitive market within the Atlanta market. Now we could take this same search and let's back up and let's type it in for Orlando. So now this is Orlando, and as you can see, the number is 519 versus 1519. Now, if I were you, or if you were me, where should I post, or where should I look for clients to be? Okay, both of those markets are going to be good. Anything that's over, I'd say 100 to 200 ads is pretty good. When you get into these markets where you've got like no ads posted, like 2 ads a day are posted for that niche, that's probably going to be too small. In that scenario, usually it's like somebody that's kind of in a rural or a suburban area where there's not a whole lot of traffic. It's good to kind of get them posted there, and they'll get some phone calls. I mean, some places, like I've been in like Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, or Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've gotten phone calls. Even though there's not like a whole lot of traffic there, you'll get calls. You just won't get as many. So when you're picking markets to go after, obviously the best place in my mind is to start with your home market. Start where you're currently at, especially if you are going to use Craigslist as the posting solution or as your advertising solution. And that way you get a feel of your local market and get a feel of local businesses. I mean, you don't have to meet any of them. I've never met any of my local clients, and I've got many that live near me, and I've got many that live far away, and I've never met any of them. I've just talked to them on the phone or email, and we do our business. So you don't have to be in that area, but it's good to do that. So that's just a great little test to see how big a market is and to see whether or not it's viable. To me, it's viable. It's very viable for automotive in Atlanta, but you got to make sure that you're posting several ads a day. I mean, you might have to do 30, 40, 50 posts a day just to stay on the front page. So in that scenario, you may want to change how you're charging depending upon how you're doing it, because to post that many ads a day is very expensive. You have to have a lot of accounts to do that and to pull that off. But as you've seen the ebook, we do that. So if you're interested in getting that type of service, especially at a bulk rate, we can definitely talk with you about that. So you can email me, and that's in the ebook as well under the outsourcing part of it. So that's the way we look at the different services. Another thing to do is, if you're still like not sure what you want to offer, and you're like, say, in your local market, one good thing is to go around to these different services and look, what are people advertising? You got household, skilled trade, financial, legal. These can be very lucrative. Financial companies like credit repair, things like that. A lot of them are nationwide companies. But if you find somebody that's local, maybe a mortgage broker or somebody in the credit repair business, maybe an attorney. Legal is very popular. Let's see. I can never spell that right. Bankruptcy. So you got 153 ads. So it's still kind of smaller, but I guarantee these people are getting calls. And the reason I know that is because when you look at the ads that are being posted, I mean, look how many. This guy posts 3 ads a day, 2 ads a day, different ones. Okay, if people are consistently posting ads, the same guy, 21st. If they're consistently posting ads on a daily basis, I bet you they're getting phone calls. Okay, so that's the way I assess a market, whether or not it's viable, whether or not I think I can win in that market. Now, you don't have to have the best, you don't have to have the most amount of ads, because trust me, if people see too many of the same ad, they're going to get flagged. People aren't going to call them. They're just going to annoy everybody else. I like to be in that 3 to 5 range for my clients, so that I'm not overwhelming Craigslist, but yet at the same time I'm getting phone calls. Because really, there's only 2 parts of the day you're going to get phone calls. And it's basically between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Those are kind of the highlight times, if you will. Now, different seasons might call for earlier calls. Like if you're dealing with something that's in the winter, and somebody's heat went out or something like that, they're going to call early in the morning. Or if their AC goes out, in the middle of the day, they're going to call in the middle of the day. If you're dealing with plumbers, electricians, it can be any time of the day. So it just varies by how you do that. And let me talk a little bit about niches as well. So a lot of the niches that I work with are more construction or contractor type niches. And what I've found is that I like being with guys. If I'm doing pay-per-lead, I prefer to be with guys that are getting calls every day. So the two best niches for that are electricians and plumbers. Okay, why? Because people need them. I once did a Google Insight search on Google, and I compared HVAC, heating repair, AC repair to electrician and plumber. And the electrician and plumber just way outdid HVAC, heating repair, or even handyman or any of the others, because they're more of a consistent type of need and they're not seasonal. Okay, so stay away from seasonal niches. You might get, this is May or June, so you might get an HVAC guy in June, and then he'll be gone by September. Now you got to replace his income. Not to say you don't work with those guys, but they may be good to be on maybe a monthly at first, and then put them on a pay-per-lead after that. A lot of guys might be open to that type of deal, because once they kind of hit that fall, early winter, they're not getting, once they've kind of gotten past, people are turning on their heat, but it's not yet kind of cold out, they're not really going to get a whole lot of calls. Or like if you're out in like Phoenix or some of the desert areas where they don't really get the cold as much, they're going to be dead for a couple months, so they got to find other things to do. And I kind of learned that the hard way when I started with more HVAC type clients. So you want to make sure that you've got clients that are capable of handling phone calls. You want to make sure that they're that you're in a market where you can get them leads. Okay, so in my opinion, Craigslist is very viable. I've generated hundreds of phone calls off of Craigslist, and it is very viable. And you've got lots of people that actually buy. They're not all tire kickers. The other thing about that is it's the way you structure your ads, and we're going to talk about structuring our ads in the next video. But really, if you structure your ads properly, and what I mean by that is you don't go after price and you don't go after lowball people, and you position yourself that way, then you won't attract as many of those type of people. But again, we'll talk more about that in the next video on how to structure ads. So essentially, you can do several different things. It doesn't just have to be services, but that's kind of the popular one. You could do stuff in for sale, but then you're dealing with actually selling products. If you get a client and he's like, hey, can you post ads for me in the for sale section, but he's selling his service, don't do it. You'll get flagged. You've got massage therapy, you've got beauticians, you've got SEO, you've got social media. Just because somebody knows how to post ads doesn't mean they want to post ads, okay, or whatever. The Craigslist thing also is kind of an issue with some guys, because number one, they don't feel like it's valuable because, well, anybody can post ads, right? Well, the way I look at it is this: is when I'm selling my service, look, you and I could go out tomorrow, and I can go with you to a house, and you can tell me exactly how to fix this pipe, right? But do I want to be spending my day fixing stuff or doing those things? No. I want to be focused on marketing. You want to be focused on fixing stuff and going to service calls and installing new things, right? You don't want to wake up every day and think about all the marketing activities you've got to do. Regardless if it's just posting a few ads a day, you also want those ads spread out. You don't want them concentrated just in the morning, or guess what? You won't get calls in the afternoon because your ad will be already kind of going down the page. It's just like Google. You want to be at the top of the page for most of the time. And that is something, let me go ahead and show you that while I'm talking about it. So let's say, for example, here, I'm going to type in AC repair. Okay. So if you type that in, you've got two types of searches here. You've got a newest search and you got a relevant search. Some people, they're automatically on the relevant search. I've been like that. And what happens is, like, for example, this guy, he posted on the 27th, but these are from the 29th. And it changes. Let's say plumber. They're not always going to be from the 29th. So you can have ads that are from other days that are going to be at the top. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's pretty much how it works. Okay, and so it's because Craigslist picks up on keywords within the title, as well as within the actual ad itself that will pick up those things. Again, we'll talk more about the structure of the ads and such later. But I just want to show you that you really want to be at the top if you can on a consistent basis. So if you got plumber, I mean, look how many plumber listings there are at once right now in Atlanta. Almost 100, and it's just 713 for there. So plumber would be a good niche probably in Atlanta, because these guys are doing it every single day. And as a matter of fact, I've had plumbers in Atlanta, and we did really well for them for a while. Handyman, another good niche. Okay, so that's really Craigslist in a nutshell. I mean, there's so many different niches you could do. Contractors is the one that I've always done, and but let me look, pet. So you probably got dog walkers, pet sitters. Okay, so pick up a pet sitter. And computer, you've got computer repair, laptop repair. Okay, all computer repairs. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 different ones. These guys are posting all the time, and they know they need to be posting all the time. I've got a computer repair guy in New York City as one of my clients, and he knows he has to stay on top in order to get those listings. iPhone repair, I've got one of those guys, and they're spending good money every week with me. I've got some of them on weekly to do their advertising for them and making some good money from it. Okay, and they're making good money from it because they're in the good markets. Okay, so there's a lot of different things you can pull from and choose from in terms of different types of markets. Real estate agents, therapeutic was more the massage, travel. I don't know what kind of travel you'd have here. Okay, so taxi cab companies. What else? Movers. I talked about that. Transportation, party bus. Okay, those are all niches that are in here that are advertising. Now, not all of them are going to be accustomed to buying leads, so that's why you have to know who you're talking to. Some guys, like contractors and attorneys and financial people, they're accustomed to buying leads. Those are services that are out there, so they're used to pay per lead. Others are not, and so what I do for others is I position it as an advertising service or as a marketing service for their business. Hey, we're going to advertise for you locally. We're going to charge you $300, $400, $500 a month, and we expect to get you somewhere between 3 and 8 phone calls a week. Okay, so I position it a little bit differently. Instead of a pay per lead, I position it as more of a weekly. In the pricing model where we broke that down, I do it as more of a weekly or a monthly model for them because they're not accustomed to buying like that. You've got to give people what they want. You've got to allow them to choose. Don't force everybody into pay per lead if they don't want to do pay per lead, because you could be throwing out $400 a month. That really, for posting a few ads a day and getting $400 a month, that's nice. I've got clients like that, and it's really simple because I don't have to do a whole lot of work. My team does the posting, and I close the deal, and we're good to go. Okay, so really, you can be doing a lot of high volume business if you want, especially if you're the guy that's good at sales and good at getting out there and doing this. Craigslist is one of the fastest ways. So now what I want to do is shift to other methods for getting leads. And I don't have a whole lot of experience in some of these others, but these are viable methods that other guys are using in the lead generation space. And so I want to talk about how to do those. So Yellow Pages has this new thing called pay-per-call. And essentially, it is a marketing service where they're targeting or people are searching Yellow Pages on their phone. And you basically pay for every phone call you generate through their service. So if I'm on YP.com and I search for AC repair and your ad comes up and I click on that ad and it dials right on my mobile phone and it calls you, now you've got a customer from their phone call. So they're going to charge you whatever that number is. Now, the numbers are going to vary based upon the competition. It's just like Google pay-per-click, except you're doing pay-per-call. Okay? So the numbers are going to vary on how that happens or how much you're going to pay. So you want to make sure, just like, and I'm going to show you some of the other ones, you want to make sure that you're making enough money so that every phone call that you're charged for, you're still able to make a profit on. So let's say, for example, you get 3 pay-per-call clicks, okay, from YP.com, and they cost you a total of $25. Okay, now out of those 3 phone calls, let's say you can only charge your client for one phone call. And if you're only charging your client $15 per lead and you just spent $25 for those 3 phone calls, now you're losing money. So you want to make sure that the math is right. You want to make sure that you're not overspending to get them. And you might say, well, why is that, Mark? Well, because there's advertisers, there's solicitors that will use YP.com to make those types of phone calls to your clients. There's also there's also tire kickers that are going to do that. And so you may have a tire kicker provision, which is a pricing decision, where if people are just trying to price your services and they're not actually interested in buying it, you really don't want to charge them for that lead. So this is good for when you've got a monthly customer, especially when they're spending a good amount of money with you. Meaning, I would have to say in the $500 to $1,000 a month range. But again, to me, this would be more of a next tier strategy. You start them out on something like Craigslist or one of these other platforms we're talking about. When you get into pay-per-call, you're getting into more out-of-pocket expense and how much it's going to cost for people to actually call. I think it runs, it could run up there $10, $20 a phone call. So you want to make sure that you leave enough room for yourself to actually make some money, otherwise it's going to be sort of a waste. All right, and let's talk about another one. Is Google AdWords pay per call. And for some reason my screen is going blank there. Apologize for that. So the way Google AdWords pay per call works is they have an extension that you can put on a ad, and you can make sure that that ad is only shown on mobile phones, not tablets, but mobile phones, so that when people click it, it automatically asks them to call this number. Bet you didn't know about that, okay? So there's a guy who's actually a warrior here, and I'm going to go ahead and recommend him because he is a pro at this. His name is Leonidas Kaplan, and this is his website. It's called premium23.com. I'm going to show it to you. And he's actually created a great little video on how this all works. I'm not sure if he has a WSO or a course or anything like that, but I would get in contact with him. He seems like a real helpful guy, and see if he can help get you started. Now, what he does is he uses this pay-per-call AdWords to do leads, but not local leads. He does it for CPA type marketing, which is cost per acquisition type marketing. So, for example, maybe a client like a financial company, maybe a student loan company, where they're trying to consolidate student loans. So what they will do is they will actually run a campaign, and they'll say, hey, anybody that sends us a phone call and that person's on the phone with us for more than 3 minutes and goes through our survey or something like that, we'll pay you $30 for, or we'll pay you $20 for. Okay, so that's what he does. Is he's able to, or he's from what he's declaring here, is he's been able to master how to use Google AdWords pay-per-call in order to do that. And so he's making a return on his money. So if local leads isn't for you, this definitely could be a way to do that for you. And he talks about how to actually set up those campaigns. He's got a great little video here on how to do it, and you can also contact him. Again, I don't know if he's got a product or not, but he seems like a real good guy. He's helped me out in terms of some of the questions I've had for that. So Google pay-per-call Google AdWords pay-per-call is an extension that they click on, and it automatically asks them to call your phone number. And obviously the extension would be your call tracking number. And again, that's why it's important to have call tracking. So for example, if you're running Craigslist and you're running YP.com and you're running Google, you want to have 3 different phone numbers so you know where those calls are coming from. You know the quality of those calls, and you see where they're coming from. All right, and the last one I want to show you is YouTube advertising. Now, this was working really well for some guys a couple months ago, and what happened? What they were doing was they were putting their phone number, or the phone number to the client, in the text portion of the ad. It's a video ad that you create, and basically you just target people in a certain area, and you'll get impressions, and you'll get. What it does is it basically plays the video before they're watching the video. So let's say I'm in I don't know, I'm here in Atlanta or whatever, and let's say I'm looking up something about how to fix your toilet. Okay, so I can target people that are sort of in that do-it-yourself or how-to niche, and they happen to be in Florida or in Florida, yeah. And so demographically, I believe you can do it demographically. But essentially, yeah, you can do it demographically. So what we want to do is then we would target them based on those things. And so every time, let's say they go and they click on this plumber ad, or not plumber ad, but this how to fix your toilet thing. My plumber ad will then show up before they watch their video. Now, if they watch the video, they can see it and they can watch my interactive video, or they can just skip it. And if they skip it, I'm not charged for it. So it's kind of a nice thing. So the only time you're charged for it is if they actually watch it more than, I think it's like 5 or 10 seconds or something like that. So you may have a potential good impression if they actually are willing to watch the video. So what he did was he actually had the call to action, call this number now for us to do a free estimate or to come out and look at your toilet or something like that. So it's a really neat way to target people, and just kind of you don't hear anybody talking about using YouTube advertising. I mean, you hear about it in SEO and things like that, but as far as YouTube ads, I don't think anybody's cracked the code quite yet on how to do that. But now you can't put the phone number in the text part, but from what I know, you can still put it in the video copy. So if you've got a great little promo video or something like that for your client, and you just want to upload it to YouTube, and then you start sending traffic to that video, and the traffic's really not too expensive. I want to say it was, it was pretty cheap, 10, 20, 30 cents a click or something like that, or per impression or whatever it was. So it wasn't very expensive. I ran some tests on it before, but didn't really have the client. I didn't have the client buy-in on it, because I really wanted to make sure that they were able to spend some money, more money on it, and so I kind of shied away from it for now. But it does work. It is something to look into if you're looking for other channels. So really, Craigslist is kind of the starting point, and then out from that is where you want to get into all the different types. And again, this is more of a, if you're looking in the services niche, any type of services is what this type of advertising platforms and channels are going to be good for, so that you're generating consistent quality leads for your clients. All right, so that is where to advertise and getting results for your clients. And next video, we'll talk about setting up your ads.
Okay, so in this video, we're going to create a new company. It's very simple. I'm going to go to Admin, click on Manage Companies. And before you do this, I want to explain that, as you can see, we have multiple companies, multiple niches and such, and each of them are different. What we do is, instead of adding like normal, let's say for example we have a new client that comes in the door and their name is Atlanta Heating and Air, or Brian's Heating and Air, and they're in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, what normally you would think you would do is add the company and create his name and his company name, but we don't do that. We do it by niche and by city. So as you can see, Atlanta HVAC, Houston Flooring, Atlanta Computer Repair. So we keep it very generic in the sense of city and niche or industry. The reason we do that is so that we can bring in multiple contractors with the same phone number. So this is one phone number for Houston HVAC, and we can send this same number to multiple callers. So for example, I think we have 2 or 3 Houston HVAC repairmen, and so we send them to there. So let me go ahead and show you how to add a company. So we're going to call this one Atlanta Electrician. So the city and the niche. Click OK. So that company's been created. Alright, and as you can see, there's no numbers, there's no call flow, there's no caller ID, and there's no blacklist or anything else. So with numbers, if you click on that, you'll notice that we don't have any available numbers right now. So we'll have to buy a phone number in order to use it. So what I'm going to do is just to show you how you can easily do this before we actually, I don't need to buy a number right now. So I'm going to click Save on that, edit the company number. So now you'll see that this number will disappear. And there you go. So that number is now gone. So what I'm going to do is click None over here. And I'm going to add that phone number to this company. And sometimes we'll do this if we're testing out different markets or testing out different ideas and ads and things of that nature. We might move numbers around. But more than likely, once we buy a number, we keep it for that particular company in this case. So then we have what's called call flow. So you can see the number is right there. That's the tracking number for that particular company. So when we're advertising for Atlanta Electrician, we're going to always use this number, or we may use multiple numbers like we're doing in the Atlanta HVAC industry. And if we have to buy multiple numbers, that might be something that that I myself might do, or a poster might do, or I might just email you and ask you to go ahead and buy some numbers for certain niches. So if you look at call flow, right now it says none. What we want to do is, it's just going to depend upon if we're adding people to our niche, or if this is a brand new company. If it's a brand new company, more than likely we only have one to start with. So we're going to click on ring one number, and we're going to put their phone number right there in the outgoing number. So we click save. Okay, and once we've done that, we click save again. Now you'll see that it says call flow set to ring one number. So click back, and you'll see right here now it says ring one number. Well, let's say we have 3 different companies that we're going to be sending them to. The majority of the time, unless I tell you otherwise, we're going to be using what's called round robin. So you're going to make sure you click there, click edit settings, and then you're going to add each number. So we'll just make up a couple. So we'll add that one, and then we'll add 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. Alright, we'll add that one. Alright, and so once we've added all the phone numbers, we just click save, and then save again. Make sure you always click save. And if you're ever not sure, make sure just hit edit settings again, just to make sure that you have you always want to double check these numbers. It's extremely important, because if we don't get these phone numbers correct, then we're going to have a problem, because the person who's buying leads from us is not going to be getting phone calls. Somebody else will be. Okay, so we want to make sure that those phone numbers line up with the sales form that you've received to input this information. So we click save. It's been saved, call flow set, and then click back. Okay, and then we'll cover another feature here, the caller ID. So the caller ID, it used to be that we would set it to the actual number. We've decided against doing that, because what happens is when the contractor misses a phone call, he ends up trying to call the number back, and that number is our tracking number. So he ends up talking to another contractor, which it leaves for somewhat of an embarrassing situation. So what we do is we usually make up a number. So for example, in Atlanta, I might say 404, 123 4 5 6 7, or something of that nature. And if you're not sure about doing that, please let me know. But most of the time, it's going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 after the area code. And the area code, you can use the same as the area code that's for the Twilio number that you purchased right over here. And we'll cover that in another video. Okay, so once we've done that, and you can see it's been updated, caller ID is to that one. And then we're going to click on blacklist. And this is very important. We have a running blacklist of spam phone numbers from all over the country. And these phone numbers are basically solicitors and people who are trying to sell services to our customers. And to be honest, we don't really want to deal with that. And so we want to make sure that they're not calling. So anytime somebody on this blacklist tries to call, it'll get a busy number, and they won't be able to get through. Okay, and so we're not charged for that as well. And then you want to edit company phone codes. So we want to click on that, and then click on incoming phone codes. And then we're going to go here to load template. We've already got it for you. Lead gen client. Just click insert. Click yes. OK. And it should be good. Let's check real quick just to make sure. As you can see, everything's been loaded in there. Voicemail, lead, duplicate number, solicitor. And we will teach you that in another video of how to actually determine those phone codes and where they actually go. So that is it for this video, and we will keep going. You can also run usage report from this one as well. But for this particular, we won't be doing that. So let's go to the next video. Okay, in this video we're going to talk about how to buy phone numbers from Twilio right within the software, so that you don't have to go outside or do anything else. So we're going to click on admin, and then we're going to go to manage phone numbers. and just click there. Alright, and so this is where we actually go and purchase phone numbers for our customer usage. And as you can see, we have a bunch of phone numbers in here already. Okay. So what we do is, the easiest way to do this is, if you're buying a new phone number, that means you're setting up a brand new company and generally a brand new client with that company. So the way I like to do it is make it very simple, and I look at the area code of their phone number. If their incoming phone number is 404 or 818 or 323, whatever their incoming phone number is, I'm going to use that to buy a number with. So in our example, let's just say we're going to use 404. Okay, then what we have to do is click the asterisk button 7 times. And what that does is it gives us a bunch of different variations of a 404 area code. All right, and then we're going to click search. All right, so as you can see, there are a ton of phone numbers available that we can buy. All right, now there's not really a method to this, and I don't really have much of a method to it. What I try to do is find phone numbers that are simple, but this is not something that should take you an hour. It shouldn't take you more than 30 seconds to do. As you can see, I'm looking through this, and I already see these 900 numbers. These look really good to me. I like 900, anything with zeros in it, or simple stuff like 900 7625. So right there, I would probably go ahead and buy that number because it looks like a good number to me. And if you're not sure or you want me to do it with you a couple times, we can do that as well. But for these purposes, it's very simple. I can always put the number back if I don't like it, but more than likely you're going to be okay. All right, and so once we've picked that number, we would go ahead and press purchase number, and then it says, are you sure you want to purchase number? For this scenario, I'm not going to actually purchase the number, so I'm going to click no. So if you accidentally mess up or whatever, you would just click no. You don't have to actually purchase it. Now, what will happen is, once you actually purchase it, the number will appear right here, and it'll have campaign, it'll have a URL. You do not need to, and please do not mess with any of this stuff right here, okay? This is nothing you need to worry about, nothing you need to be concerned with, okay? The only time we go in here is if we're actually deleting a phone number from our records, and that would mean we don't have any more contractors in that area, or we're not going to run calls in that niche. For example, I'm running right now several phone numbers for several different plumbers in the Los Angeles area, and I may decide that I'm not getting enough phone calls and may decide to end that campaign, so I would just click delete and that phone number would be gone. So please do not mess with anything here, but you'll see that number will pop up right here and it'll be blank. It won't have LA Electrician, it won't have anything. The reason for that is because we have to assign it to a company in a later, just as we show you in a later video. So that's how you buy phone numbers. Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to create a new user in our call tracking software. What you'll do is if you're in the admin, you're going to go scroll down to Manage Users, and you'll click there and you'll come to this page right here. So then you're going to click on Add New User, and you're going to create the person's username, email, then you're going to put in their full name and then a password. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to use a fake name and such. So we'll call this test user 1, and we'll use the same at gmail.com, and then we'll put test user. For password, I always like to start off with a simple something like 1234 ABCD, so that way they can change the password as they want. Then we click OK, and once we've done that, the user's been created in the system. At the same time, this user would have gotten an email to this email address if that email existed. Then what we want to do is we want to add a company to them, and what I mean by that is if we're starting off a new niche industry, for example, you can see Atlanta HVAC. So if we were doing Atlanta Electrician, and we will have to go and create a company and then add that person to them. But for these purposes right now, we'll just add them to Atlanta Computer Repair and click Save. And as you can see, now they've been added to, once it updates, there we go, Atlanta Computer Repair, and there you go. All right, so as you can see over here, if we need to make changes like you'll never do this, promote user to admin, that just won't happen. If you need to delete a user, for example, if somebody decided that they don't want to be with us anymore, we just delete them after you've gotten permission to do that. You can also change permissions for this user, and what we like to do is after we've gotten them in the system, let's say for example maybe they came in and we had some other calls, we can change this to only calls after let's say today, like say they just came into the system today, so today's the 12th, so we could say only allow access to calls after this date. And the reason for that is because we don't want them seeing maybe previous phone calls that were there before, but really it's nothing that we really deal with here. So we usually don't mess with this, but in case I let you know that that's something we need to do, that's what we do. So then you would just click save and they would be done. So those are the user permissions. You can also change allowed phone numbers. So for example, and this is very necessary actually, you only want to show the outgoing number here. That means to their phone that they're actually receiving calls. Let me show you an example. So for this particular client, as you can see, he only sees the calls that are going to his phone number. So when he logs into his reports, he can only see the numbers that actually rang to him. If that doesn't happen, meaning if we leave it blank, he can see all the calls that go through all here. We don't want that happening, so it's very important that you make it so that he can only see the numbers for, like right there, so only see for his particular phone number. Okay, very important that we do that. And then if you need to resend like the username and password, you can click that button, or if you need to set up email forwarding, you can do that as well. So that's how we create a new user on our system. So in this video, we're going to cover some what I call sales and marketing tricks. Now, this is really the nitty-gritty stuff that I just kind of had to figure out on my own through learning also from other guys that are out in the field doing similar stuff. And I just felt like making this video would maybe help connect the dots for some people, especially if you're just getting started and you're really not sure how to set all this up, how to sound professional. This will cut about 3 months out of your learning curve if you apply these things successfully. And the reason for that is, look, you don't have to have all of these things, but really if you can come off as a professional business, a real business, then people are much more anticipating of doing business with you. The old rule of thumb: people do business with those they know, like, and trust. Okay, you can be a good salesperson on the phone, but if you're not good with the follow-up and you're not good with appearing credible in terms of your internet footprint, because look, a lot of these guys are going to look at the Better Business Bureau, they're going to look for your website, they're going to do reviews on you because they want to know they can trust you. So you might be able to sell them on the phone, and some guys will be an easy sale. Others, it'll take time, it'll take a cultivating of relationship, but those tend to be the better ones. Those tend to be the ones who are going to do big business with you, especially if you want to do bigger companies and make a lot more money on the several $100s, up front per month versus, $25 here and there. So it's up to you. So I'm just going to quickly show you or go through my process and my system of what we use. Now, in other videos, we'll talk about how I use Google Voice to actually capture leads and why I actually do that. But for now, just showing you that, hey, look, you can go to Google Voice, get a Google Voice phone number. Now, I in particular have used it with a different email, so I didn't have the same Gmail address for my sales guy. But I basically set up a different Gmail address for each of my outsourcers, and we also use it internally. So this particular one is CLN Sales 1. Please don't email it. I don't need to have an influx of people emailing this particular one. But I just wanted to show you how it works. So we have it actually set up so that it's filtering all of my Google voicemails to this particular inbox. So as you can see, these are all leads that have come in. And we also have it filtering with notifications of sales that are all coming in. And then we also do emailing from different people. So we set up the Google Voice so that, like, say for example, if you have an outsourced salesperson, you can filter it so that they have their own email inbox, because you don't want to, unless you want to set up a number just for that particular Gmail, you can do that, but I already had one, so I just wanted to use that number. So I filtered it out of my other Gmail address so that it all comes here. It's not as complicated as it might sound. Essentially, that way, he's notified every time a new lead comes in. So we have it set up that way, and then we also have the emailing of information sent here. So, for example, this is an info that talks about how our lead generation service works, how much the investment is. Give us a call when you're ready to go, and there's my information. We do that so that, for example, so this is what they see as the outgoing. Instead of seeing Gmail, we set it up through this what's called masking. I'll show you that in a second. But we do that to really show the professionalism that, hey, we're serious about what we're talking about. Because some of these guys, $400 or $500 a month, isn't too big of a deal, but they want to know who they're doing business with. So when you can send them this type of email, if you can't close them on that first call, then you're able to at least show them, hey, we're legitimate. We're excited about getting you started in our system. We're not just a one and done. We're going to nurture